Comprehensive Centers Program 2026 Grant Competition. This webinar focused solely on information specific to the 2026 Comprehensive Centers Grant Competition for the National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. For pre-application webinars for other 2026 grant competitions on this program, please visit the Comprehensive Centers Program website at ed.gov. My name is Dr. Michelle Daly. I serve as the group leader for the Comprehensive Centers Program in the Office of Program and Grantee Support Services at the U.S. Department of Education. The department is accepting applications through June 30, 2026 for proposals to establish a comprehensive center under separate application notices and instruction through this competition. The department may make awards for a national comprehensive center, regional comprehensive centers, and 3 types of content centers. One emerging needs center is focusing on projects that are designed to strengthen core instruction through creating and supporting principals and other leaders in implementing strategic staffing models. At least 2 field initiative centers, with preference given to applicants submitting proposals to establish centers focused on evidence-based literacy instruction or strengthening core instruction through improving mathematics instruction, and 1 national center on improving literacy for students with disabilities. Each center type has its own absolute priority and competitive preference priority and application requirements. Because these are distinct priorities, applicants must review the relevant application notice and instruction for each center type they are interested in. If an applicant intends to compete for more than 1 comprehensive center, whether national, regional, or content, they must submit a standalone application for each center they wish to operate. Applicants can review recorded webinars reviewing the specific requirements for each center type on the U.S. Department of Education YouTube channel. This webinar will provide information for prospective applicants for the National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disability Grant Award. During the webinar, we will review details from the application notice and instruction, including priorities, program, application and eligibility requirements, and selection criteria relevant to the application for the National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. As a result of viewing this webinar, applicants should be able to identify the application requirements and expectations outlined in the Application Notice and Instruction, or ANI, including, for example, priorities, application requirements, due dates, and review process of the 2026 National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disability Grant Competition. The funding opportunity number associated with this competition is ED grants -051126-001. The assistant listing number, or ALN, for this program is 84.283D. The funding opportunity listed on grants.gov contains the full application notice and instruction for this competition. The application notice and instruction serves as the official announcement for this competition. Applicants should not rely solely on this webinar for information and guidance, should only use this presentation as a resource in conjunction with the official instruction in the ANI. Before applying for this grant, interested applicants should thoroughly review the ANI, which includes the application package instruction available on grants.gov. Applicants may also review resources available on the applicant information page on the Comprehensive Center website at ed.gov. To support clarity through the presentation, we have listed several commonly used acronyms used in this grant competition. Eligibility for this program is established in Section 203B of the Education Technical Assistance Act, or ETAA. Applicants eligible for this grant include research organizations, institutions, agencies, institutions of higher education, or partnership among such entities, or individuals with the demonstrated ability or capacity to carry out the activities described in the ANI. A group of eligible entities may also apply as a consortium in accordance with the requirements in 34 CFR Part 75, Subpart C. The Comprehensive Center Network, or CC Network, is comprised of 3 types of comprehensive centers, including a National Comprehensive Center, or National Center, regional comprehensive centers, or regional centers, and content centers. Each regional center provides intensive client-driven technical assistance aligned to state and local priorities and needs. These services help states, select, implement, and sustain evidence-based program practices and intervention in support of improved educator practice and student outcomes, especially in math and literacy. The National Center coordinates client-driven technical assistance to address SEA, REA, TEA, and LEA priorities related to evidence use and implementation of evidence-based practices to improve student outcomes nationally. Each content center provides technical assistance on a specific topic of national and regional importance reflected across state and local needs and priorities. The National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disability, or NCIL, is a content center authorized under Section 2244 of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, as reauthorized by the Every Student Succeed Act of 2015, to identify or develop evidence-based literacy assessment tools and professional development activities, and to identify evidence-based instruction, strategies, and accommodation to students at risk for not attaining full literacy skills due to a disability. Along with the national and regional centers, these content centers form a network to provide capacity building support to educational agencies and schools that improve instruction, expand opportunities, and close achievement gaps for all students, especially those with the greatest needs. All centers are expected to coordinate services, consult each other in providing services to clients. The National Center helps facilitate collaboration across centers and support the dissemination of products and resources, information from the CC Network through the CC Network website, newsletters, and media. Funded by the Institute of Education Sciences, the nation's 10 regional education laboratories, or RELs, partner with educators and policymakers nationwide. REL work is change-oriented, supporting meaningful local, regional, and state decisions about education policies, program, and practices designed to improve learner outcomes. RELs collaborate with state departments of education, school district leaders, and classroom educators and other education stakeholders to address their most pressing problems of education policy and practice. Their work includes high-quality applied research, training, coaching, and technical support to educators and policymakers, and sharing information about what works to improve learner outcomes. Content centers, including the NCIL, importantly partners with RELs to disseminate the products of the centers to regionally diverse SEAs, LEAs, REAs, and schools. This partnership provides the opportunity to expand the reach of evidence-based literacy, resources, and information for students with disabilities and support the broader awareness and use of literacy tools, resources, and practice across regions. We will now review the funding opportunity description for this competition, starting with the priorities for the application for the National Comprehensive Centers on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. This competition features one absolute priority and one competitive preference priority. The absolute priority used in this competition is for projects that propose to establish and operate a National Comprehensive Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. It is from the Notice of Final Priorities Requirements and Definition, published in the Federal Register on May 8, 2026. The competitive preference priority, or CPP, is returning education to the states. An applicant may receive up to 10 points for the CPP. It is from the Final Priorities and Definition, Secretary's Supplemental Priorities and Definition, published in the Federal Register on September 9, 2025. Applicants should review the ANI for specific information and how to meet the absolute priority and competitive preference priority for the National Comprehensive Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. For this competition, the absolute priority is National Comprehensive Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. Applicants must directly address this priority to be considered for funding. Let's review the details for the absolute priority for the National Comprehensive Center for Students with Disabilities. As a reminder, the full text for this absolute priority is included in the ANI. I will highlight several aspects of this priority. This priority is for projects that propose to establish a content center to provide technical assistance on specific topic of national or regional importance, reflected across state and local needs and priorities. Content centers must provide high-quality, useful and relevant, client-driven, targeted, and universal capacity-building services to SEA, REA, TEA, LEA, and for the ENSO family clients. These services must be designed to build state and local capacity and improve educational outcomes, educational opportunities, educator practice, and student outcomes related to their specific topic area. To meet this priority, an applicant must propose to establish and operate a national comprehensive centers on improving literacy for students with disabilities, focused on children and early childhood education programs through high school at risk at not attaining full literacy skills due to a disability, including dyslexia, impacting reading and writing, impacting language processing, comprehension, or executive functioning. This priority further elaborates several core responsibilities that must be accomplished by the center. One of the core responsibilities of the ENSO is to identify or develop free or low-cost literacy assessment tools. These tools must help educators accurately identify students who are at risk for not attaining full literacy skills due to a disability. The focus is on assessment that are evidence-based, accessible, and appropriate for early detection. The center must also identify evidence-based instructional approaches and strategies tailored to students with disabilities. This includes accommodations and assistive technology designed to meet the specific literacy needs of these learners. The goal is to ensure that educators have practical, research-supported tools to improve literacy outcomes. A critical component of the center's work is providing clear, accessible information to families. Families must be equipped with resources that help them understand their child's literacy needs and support learning at home. This ensures that support for students extend beyond the classroom. The center must also develop or identify evidence-based professional development for teachers, paraprofessionals, principals, school leaders, and specialized instructional staff. Training must enable educators to recognize early indicators of students at risk of literacy challenges due to a disability, use evidence-based screening assessments for early identification beginning no later in kindergarten, implement evidence-based instruction tailored for the specific literacy needs of these students. And finally, the center must disseminate its products and resources nationally to SEAs, REAs, and schools across a diverse region. Dissemination should leverage partnership with other comprehensive centers and regional educational laboratories to maximize reach and impact. There is one competitive preference priority for this competition for the National Comprehensive Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. To ensure the proposals for comprehensive centers meet the needs of states they are intended to serve, the department has included competitive preference priority 1, returning education to the states. This is not a requirement. It is in addition to the points an applicant earn through selection criteria. In this competition, the department will award 10 additional competitive preference points to projects or proposals that will be carried out by state educational agencies, tribal educational agencies, entities identified, designated, or endorsed by a governor or chief state educational official, or a consortium of such entities. This means the applicant for the award must meet one of these criteria to qualify for the 10 competitive preference points. Any application that the department determines meets one or more of these 4 criteria will be awarded the competitive preference points. Applicants would not be awarded more points for meeting more of the criteria. To meet the criterion for the entity identified, designated, or endorsed by a governor or chief state education official, applicants must include specific evidence that a governor or chief state official has identified, designate, or endorse its project. Specific evidence should include a letter of endorsement, an official letterhead signed by the governor or chief state education official, and should be included with the application at the time of submission. The letter should clearly indicate the state's support for the proposal. States may choose to endorse more than one proposal for a given competition that they believe would meet their need. Applicants need at least one state endorsement to qualify under this criterion. Please note If the department is unable to clearly identify an identification, designation, or endorsement by a governor or chief state education official, the department may determine that the application does not meet the CCP under this criteria and the points would not be awarded. Applicants should clearly review the ANI for detailed guidance on meeting all absolute and competitive preference priority requirements. Next, we will review the program requirements that apply to the National Comprehensive Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disability Grant Competition. The program requirements are established in the Comprehensive Centers Program, Final Priority Requirements and Definition, published in the Federal Register on May 8, 2026. Program requirements are generally described requirements of grantees under this program. They are addressed after grant award and are further detailed in a cooperative agreement between the grantee and the department. There are 5 general program requirements that apply to all centers and 4 program requirements that only apply to content centers. Applicants should be aware of the program requirements and should consider how they would meet these requirements if they receive the award to operate an ENSEL. Centers must design and deliver capacity building services that are streamlined, responsive, and tailored to specific state and local needs. Services must be developed in partnership with beneficiaries and aligned to desired outcome. This ensures that clients drive the priorities and work of the centers and that center work is responsive to client needs. Centers must demonstrate that clients were actively engaged in defining proposed services. Centers must secure and document client and partnership commitments to annual service plans. Centers must implement a performance management and evaluation system that integrates continuous improvement to promote achievement of client outcomes. Systems must track progress towards agreed upon short, mid, and long-term outcomes, outputs, and milestones, reach, use, and impact of services, client satisfaction, and changes in client context that may influence project success. Clients must also measure and report on defined program performance measures, which are listed in the ANI. And finally, centers are required to participate in the department's national evaluation of the Comprehensive Centers Program, which is required in the ETAA. In addition to the program requirements for all centers, there are 4 additional program requirements for the National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. The next slide provides an abbreviated overview of these program requirements. In developing its annual service plan, ENSEL must consult and integrate feedback from states, CC clients, families, the department, national and regional centers, and other department-funded centers that support improving literacy instructions. This feedback must meaningfully form the tools, resources, and technical assistance to ensure services reflect priority needs across stakeholders. Centers must partner with the national and regional centers as needed to support state in improving literacy instruction for students with disabilities. This may include developing and implementing state learning agendas, addressing state requests for assistance within each region, strengthening regional center staff capacity regarding evidence-based practices aligned to content centers' focus area. Centers must establish formal partnership agreement with the national center, regional centers, and relevant department-funded TA providers. Agreements must outline processes for meeting Comprehensive Centers program requirement and must be submitted to the department after the award. Finally, based on the complex relationship-driven nature of the work of the Comprehensive Centers, grantees are required to demonstrate dedicated leadership with a capacity to effectively manage all aspects of the center's operation. The project director must be able to manage all aspects of the center at a minimum of 0.5 FTE, ensuring a sufficient time and capacity to oversee program implementation, coordination, and results. Otherwise, centers may appoint 2 co-project directors or a director and deputy who together must serve at a minimum of 0.75 FTE collectively. Applicants should describe the proposed leadership structure for the center in their application and explain how the organizational leadership would effectively manage the project according to the needs of the program. As a reminder, these are requirements that grantees must meet post-award. Applicants should consider how they will meet these requirements if awarded a National Comprehensive Center on Literacy for Students with Disability grant. Please refer to the A&I for a comprehensive text of the program requirements for the center. We will now review the application requirements, which are requirements that applicants must address in their application for a National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disability Grant Award. The application requirements are established in the Comprehensive Centers Program, Final Priority Requirements and Definition on grants.gov that was published on May 8, 2026. Application requirements describe the requirements of applicants under this program. They must be addressed in the grant application. There are seven general application requirements that apply to all centers and 3 application requirements only for content centers. Applicants should clearly review the application requirements at A&I and make sure their application narrative addresses each application requirement. The application requirements correspond to the selection criteria that will be used to evaluate your proposal. There are 7 general application requirements for all centers. Please refer to the A&I for the comprehensive description of each application requirements. Applicants must clearly describe their approach to capacity building services supported by a logic model, evidence-based and well-defined strategies. The application must demonstrate expertise and past success delivering effective capacity building services, qualifications of key personnel, expected impact on the SEAs, REAs, TEAs, and LEAs in schools, and how impact will be measured and how services will be addressed, the needs of students with the greatest needs as defined in Section 203E of the ETAA. Applicants must outline a process for working in partnership with CC clients to identify the most urgent educational challenges. This process must ensure challenges are supported by data and evidence and reflect state and local priorities. Applicants must describe how they will measure and monitor client progress in addressing identified challenges. This includes using data and evidence to assess outcomes across universal, targeted, and intensive capacity building services. Applicants must show strong expertise in delivering high-quality technical assistance, including knowledge of adult learning principles, coaching models, and implementation science. Applicants must provide a budget narrative explaining the estimated cost for intensive, targeted, and universal capacity building services. The narrative must address cost effectiveness, showing alignment between proposed cost and market expectation for similar services. Please refer to the A&I for the full description of the application requirements for all centers. Applicants must also describe the proposed leadership structure for the center and how the organizational leadership will effectively manage the project according to the needs of the program. The structure must demonstrate the organization's ability to effectively manage all aspects of the project, including strategic oversight, coordination, and compliance with program requirements. As a reminder, this is the applicant's opportunity to discuss how they will meet the full-time equivalency requirements for the project leadership. Applicants must include in the budget a line item for an annual set-aside for 5% of the grant amount to support emerging needs that align to the project's intended outcome. Applicants can incorporate this 5% set-aside in any way they choose and should describe their approach in the budget narrative. There are 3 additional application requirements for content centers. Applicants for NCIL must propose a clear approach for delivering capacity building services that respond to clients' identified needs and priorities. The approach must show how the center will amplify the use of evidence-based practice, products, and tools across practitioners and education system leaders, elementary and secondary schools, and LEAs, REAs, TEAs, and LEAs. The emphasis is on ensuring that evidence-based tools are adopted, used effectively, and aligned to the needs of diverse educational contexts. Applicants must describe how the center will provide universal capacity building services that are accessible to all states and stakeholders. This includes developing high-quality, evidence-based products and tools, expanding the dissemination of these materials to practitioners, leaders, and policymakers, ensuring that resources are high quality, accessible, understandable, and actionable. Identifying intended beneficiaries for each product, and demonstrating that services are driven by client needs and co-developed with client input. Please see the definition in the ANI for the complete definition of universal capacity building services. Note, universal services should align with the broader CC network goal, making evidence-based resources publicly available and easy usable across regions. Applicants must clearly identify the specific educational challenges that project intend to address. Challenges must be aligned with the priorities outlined in Section 203F1 of the ETAA, which focuses on improving educational opportunities and outcomes for students with the greatest needs. The description must be supported by national, regional, and state local educational data and reflect state and local needs and priorities on the topic, and how those needs are addressed through the center's capacity building strategies proposed. Now that we've reviewed what each application should include, let's review the criteria peer reviewers will use to evaluate and score each application. The selection criteria for this competition are described in the ANI. There are 3 overall selection criteria within each sub-criteria that are scored individually. The selection criteria are significance, quality of project design, quality of management plan. As a reminder, the application narrative responds to the priorities and the selection criteria found in the ANI and should follow the order of the selection criteria. The maximum possible score for addressing all selection criteria is 100 points for ENSEL. The maximum score for each criterion is included in parentheses following the title of the specific selection criterion. Each criterion also includes the factor that reviewers will consider in determining the extent to which an applicant meets the criterion. The criteria are defined for each center. We will provide an abbreviated overview of the criteria for ENSEL here. Please refer to the ANI for the complete text of each criterion. The first selection criterion is significance, in determining the overall quality of the significance of the proposed project for the National Center on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. The Secretary considers the following factors. First, the data presented, including a comparison of local, state, regional, national, or international data that demonstrates the issue, challenge, or opportunities to be addressed by the proposed project. The maximum score for this sub-criterion is 5 points. Next, the extent to which the proposed project is likely to build local, state, regional, and national capacity to provide, improve, or sustain or expand training or services that address the needs of underserved population. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 10 points. Note, in responding to the selection criteria factor, under significance, applicants are encouraged to define underserved population in the context of students identified or prioritization under the ETAA, namely those from low-income families and students attending schools, implementing comprehensive supports and improvement or targeted or additional targeted support and improvement activities on the ESEA Section 111D. The maximum score for the significance criterion is 15 points. The second selection criteria is the quality of the project design. There are 6 sub-criteria. The Secretary considers the following factors: the extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are clearly specified, measurable, and ambitious, yet achievable within the project period and aligned with the purpose of the program. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 10 points. The adequacy of the plans for ensuring the use of quantitative and qualitative data, including meaningful community members and partner input to inform continuous improvement in the operation of the proposed project. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 10 points. The extent to which the training or professional development services to be provided by the proposed project are in sufficient quality, intensity, and duration to build recipient project capacity in ways that lead to improvements in practice among the recipient of these services. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 20 points. The extent to which proposed projects would include coordination with other federal investments, as well as appropriate agencies and organizations providing similar services to the target population. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 5 points. The final sub-criterion for quality of project design are the extent to which the proposed project is supported by the target population that is intended to serve. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 5 points. And the quality of the logic model or other conceptual framework underlying the proposed project, including how inputs are related to outcomes. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 5 points. The maximum score for the quality of project design criterion is 55 points. The third and final selection criterion is the quality of management plan. There are 4 sub-criteria. The first is the feasibility of the management plan to achieve project objectives and goals on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timeline, and milestone for accomplishing project tasks. The maximum score for the sub-criterion is 10 points. The second is the extent to which key personnel in the project, when hired, have the qualification required for the proposed project, included formal training or work experience in field related to the objectives of the project and represent or have lived experience of the target population. In responding to the selection criteria factor on the quality of the management plan, applicants are encouraged to define target population in the context of the universe of CC clients. For example, SEAs, REAs, LEAs, and schools identified for support under ETAA to be served by the applicant. The maximum score for this sub-criterion is 10 points. Next, the third factor is a qualification, including relevant training and experience of project consultants or subcontractors. The maximum score for this sub-criterion is 5 points. The extent to which the budget is adequate to support the proposed project and the costs are reasonable in relation to the objectives, design, and potential significance of the proposed project. The maximum score for this sub-criterion is 5 points. The maximum score for the quality of the management plan is 30 points. This concludes our overview of the application notes and instruction for the National Comprehensive Centers on Improving Literacy for Students with Disabilities. Congress has appropriated approximately $50 million to the Comprehensive Centers program in fiscal year 2026, approximately $1.5 million of which will be used for a new ENSO award. The department estimates funding the ENSO ranging from $1.485 and $1.5 million for the first budget period of the project, which is the first 12 months of up to 60 months or up to 5-year project period. Funding for subsequent budget period is contingent on appropriation level. Specific estimates of funding levels, as well as the estimated range of award for each center, are in each center's application notice and instruction. Applicants should not request funding above the estimated maximums in the application notice for any project period. Please note that the department is not bound to any estimates in the ANI. On behalf of the U.S. Department of Education, thank you for participating in today's pre-application webinar for prospective applicants to the 2026 Comprehensive Centers Grant Competition. For information about the application instruction and submission procedures for all of the 2026 Comprehensive Centers Grant Competition, please view the application resource webinar on the Comprehensive Centers Program website at ed.gov. In addition, for pre-application webinars for other 2026 grant competition under this program, please visit the Comprehensive Centers website at ed.gov.